Hello, good evening, and welcome to Joy News Prime. Coming up this hour, Ghana's fight against terrorism gets a major boost as President Akufo-Addo deploys more resources to Ghana's border with neighboring Burkina Faso, in addition to a military standby force with other West African countries to ensure that Ghana does not become the battleground for terrorist activities.
Apart from stepping up the security response, so now we've got on our borders forward operating bases of our armed forces, which are being built up a little bit too slowly for my liking, but then that's largely a question of means on our northern border.
Now, massive vote of confidence in the office of the Special Prosecutor as UK High Commissioner support its handling of the controversial LaBianca case.
So I'm happy that the Office of the Special Prosecutor was able to seize those assets, and I think that for those institutions like the Office of the Special Prosecutor, like Yoko, like NACO, all of those organisations need to be independent, and government needs to support them in following those investigations through to hold people to account.
We'll hear from the High Commissioner, who is encouraging Kisia Jabing to replicate some fairness in pursuing other cases of corruption. Also in this bulletin, brewing tension in the Agbogloshi Yam market over the planned installation of a chief to oversee the market. We have details as the Executive Council warns the move will spark chaos and destroy the market. They want government to intervene.
Today, we will not accept tomorrow because there's no chief here. We don't have a chief since 1981.
Now, President Akufo-Addo is deploying more resources to Ghana's border with neighboring Burkina Faso to ensure the country does not become the battleground for terrorist activities. Already, Ghana and some West African countries have set up a military standby force to fight the insurgents. He is confident only a strong collaboration between the citizens and the security agencies can help defeat the insurgents who have prioritized Ghana as the next target of attacks. The president was addressing a visiting United States of America Congress Committee on Foreign Relations.
Issue of security is, and we're doing so by, I think, now accepted combination of measures whereby, apart from stepping up the security response, so now we've got on our borders forward operating bases of our armed forces, which are being built up a little bit too slowly for my liking, but then that's largely a question of means on our northern border. We're also undertaking the socio-economic interventions that are equally important in providing some hope for the populations along the border areas, so that the recruitment of young, idle people by the jihadists is something that is lessened. It's an ongoing battle, if you like, struggle, but it is one we're determined to win, because we want to make sure that this country continues to be a beacon of stability, a beacon of peace, and also, as I said, of democratic engagement in our part of the world. So these are some of the major preoccupations that we have had, and as a result of our thoughts on this and the efforts we made to interest some of our neighbors, we came up with the Accra Initiative. And the Accra Initiative initially grouped together the immediate neighboring nations: Benin, Togo, Burkina Faso, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, together in a defense and security sharing system, so that we can heighten our capacity to try and master in common this jihadist threat. It's turned out to be a very progressive and very valuable step that was taken.
So who are the insurgents and where do they come from? President Akufo-Addo has been providing some answers.
The West African region, which a few years ago was thought to be a haven of stability and democratic engagement on the continent, is now seriously challenged. And the challenge emanates from the jihadist insurrection that found root in Mali. With the downfall of Muammar Gaddafi, it transpired that many of the insurgents, warriors, jihadist warriors, who had been driven out by you from the Middle East, from Iraq, to some extent from Afghanistan, found themselves in Libya. And when Gaddafi fell, both they and their arms crossed the Sahara and found refuge in the northern parts of Mali. That's over nearly 10 years ago. And since then had been systematically waging a war in Mali, which is now spread across the entire Sahel, Niger, Burkina Faso, and is now also coming southwards. We've had terrorist outrages in Togo, which is our eastern neighbor. We've had terrorist outrages in Côte d'Ivoire, which is our western nation, and Burkina Faso, which is our northern neighbor, is now almost the epicenter, apart from Mali, of the jihadist insurrection in West.
Now let's broaden the discussion about these measures being adopted and speak to a security analyst on this. Richard Kumado is a security consultant and joins us on phone. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, we seem to focus a lot on our entry point with Burkina Faso. What makes that border so vulnerable?
Is the stretch of the border and the nature of activities around the border. What we will need to do is that the threat we are dealing with is both regional and global, and we will need a superior security management strategy, particularly along our border lines, if you want to make that place as one of the key areas of red flags you will want to pick. So definitely the Burkina Faso border, as the president alluded, has become a safe haven for people who are engaged in the business of terrorism. And so that is what you are seeing.
Now, who does a standby military force against terrorism benefit most? Ghana or the other countries in the sub-region who have had attacks already?
No, definitely it's a cross-border and a cross-national national responsibility sharing. And what we will need to do is that in fighting terrorism, we have to be mindful of the fact that if your strategies are not superior, these guys are well determined to take on the state. And we will need a collaborative, as the president alluded. But my only worry or my only suggestive recommendation is that some of these collaborations should be both horizontal and vertical. And in that way, we will not only build capacity, but we'll have the ability to deal with the threat of terrorism effectively and precisely as possible. Other than that, we have a long fight.
For those of us who are not security inclined, you mentioned horizontal and vertical. What does that mean, really?
We need to be broadening it a little bit. You will need a private sector. You see, one of the things collaboration does is that it puts at your disposal experts and expertise from other places. And you will need both the private sector, the state operators, and the general public or the citizens along the border predominantly, those who are far and those who are in close proximity. Other than that, you might be hitting wrong targets with wrong bullets, and the element of surprise might take you off.
Now, Ghanaians ordinarily fear the military and feel the police are out to get them. The president is also encouraging collaboration between citizens and the security agencies to fight insurgents. How can the existing gap be bridged?
Now, I think our approach has been a laid back for some time now. We will need to be progressive. We never had a problem using the military and the police at the same time. I think the arrangements and streamline the operations is where we have the challenges. And we are talking about the threat of terrorism. The military have a standby force for anti-terrorism. The police have it. What they need to do is to collaborate at that highest level of national security management. And once that is done, with a little bit of intelligence gathering at the focal points along the borders, we'll be fine. Other than that, we have to be watchful of how dreadful it can be when the element of surprise happens.
But that is within the security agencies. What about bridging the gap between the citizens and the security agencies? Remember, Ghanaians ordinarily fear the military. They also feel that the police are out after them. So how do we bridge the gap between these two security agencies and the citizens?
Take one of the strategies of Dampari and adapt it. Public engagement, number one. Number two is providing security awareness, or what we call security education. Then number three, carry the fear and address the anxiety of the general public. And we will encourage our men and women in uniform, particularly the green uniform, to be a bit more circumspect, to be disciplined, and to play by the rules. And once they can do these three things at the same time, which is not difficult for them to do because it's part of the trainings we have anyway, it brings everybody along, particularly the media and some key people who are stakeholders, who are civilians, that you might need their critical input at all times when it comes to dealing with crime and the dangerous one as terrorism we are talking about.
Richard Kumado is a security consultant. Thank you so much for finding time to join us. Now, moving on. The Nalerigo Magistrate Court in the Northeast region has remanded 12 persons arrested in connection with communal violence in the Tripoli district. The 12 suspects are said to be the perpetrators of the violent attack on the resident of Sangon, where 16 houses were destroyed and livestock looted. They were arraigned on Thursday and charged with attempting to commit a crime and causing unlawful damage. The presiding judge refused a bail application by their lawyer and remanded them into police custody to reappear on August 31st, 2022. Uneasy calm has returned to the district following a renewed clash between two Kokumba communities. Correspondent Elias Otanko has more.
Around 9 a.m. on July 25th, a group of organized armed men raided Sangon, a Konkoma community in the district. Within 45 minutes, the residents alleged the attack ended with 16 houses and several bags of foodstuffs set on fire and completely burnt to ashes, as well as dozens of animals being stolen by the attackers. The residents of Sangon, who are Konkombas, immediately accused their neighbors, the Anofus at Balo, of carrying out the attack. The two communities have been embroiled in a running land dispute, and tensions had risen in the weeks before the attack. The attack triggered tribal tension as the Konkomba Youth Association demanded the arrest of the perpetrators while threatening a reprisal. On Wednesday, August 24th, almost a month after the attack, the police, however, through an intelligence-led operation, smoked out over 20 individuals suspected to be involved. They were transported to the Regional Police Command in Nalerigo, where a suspect screening was conducted, leading to the identification of the 12 people who were quickly arraigned before the magistrate court on Thursday.
I don't want you to put me
charged with the offenses of attempting to commit a crime and causing unlawful damage. The prosecutor appealed to the judge for their remand for further investigations. The suspect, although their plea was not taken, their lawyer pleaded for bail, which was denied by the presiding judge, His Worship Simon Kofi Bediako, who explained that his decision to reject the bail application was taken upon several considerations, including the safety of the accused persons, particularly due to the security situation in the area. He therefore remanded the suspect into custody to reappear on the 31st of this month. Meanwhile, fresh violence between two Konkomba villages that have so far claimed the life of one person has led to heavy deployment of security personnel to the district. The security forces are currently patrolling the communities of Jinjung and Timbong, where clashes erupted Wednesday night to Thursday over a land disagreement. The two communities have also been laying a competing claim over a piece of land, and this is the third time they have clashed within this year alone. From Nalerigo, Elias Sutanko for Joy News.
Now, there's a massive vote of confidence in the Special Prosecutor, Kisi Ejabeng, whose work has attracted the support of the UK High Commissioner to Ghana. The latest investigations by the OSP revealed the approval of illegal tax waivers to local frozen foods company La Bianca by the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority. Though La Bianca has refunded to the state in excess of 1 million Ghana cedis, both the company and the Customs Division have rejected any wrongdoing.
Since 3 days ago, what has been happening? A report purporting or coming from the Office of the Special Prosecutor trying to indict the Deputy Commissioner of Operations and myself. And anybody who has read that report very well will know the basis of that. And luckily for me, God is always on my side. Before that report came, that person had made a statement to some people who had come to them. He was going to publish something that will discredit me, and he will do that. And I even sent people to go and tell him that he's a small boy. I'm older than him. I have lived a meaningful life. If he attempts to destroy me, it won't be easy for him. People have tried it. I have survived, and this one too, I'll survive. All that happened. One of the reasons was because of Mr. Akurugu. He wanted Mr. Akurugu to be seconded to his office, and I said no. Mr. Akurugu is a customs officer, primarily employed to do customs work. And he is to partner Mr. Akutofachin in that office, African Continental Free Trade Area. He deals with tariffs and valuation. And therefore, I cannot second him to the office of the Special Prosecutor.
But in what appears to be a real vote of confidence in the work by the OSP, the UK's High Commissioner to Ghana, Harriet Thompson, said Mr. Kissie Jabing must continue to discharge his mandate of fighting corruption, regardless of who is involved. In a flowing excerpt of the yet-to-be-aired interview on The Probe with MFA Apewu, Harriet Thompson was first asked about her assessment of press freedom in Ghana.
So Ghana has a really proud tradition, as I've mentioned before, out of that freedom of expression, people being able to talk about the things that bother them, being able to raise the issues that are of concern to people and explore those fully. In talking with some representatives of the media, I have heard some concerns about that freedom just tightening a bit and people feeling worried about speaking out, worried about raising the issues that they think people need to know about. I know from my conversations with government, on the other hand, that they're really committed to protecting that media freedom that's such an important part of Ghana's democracy. So it's a complicated picture. Again, that Ghana's no different in that respect, but I do feel that maintaining that space to speak openly, speak freely is a really important part of democracy's growing in strength and stability.
And from where you stand, do you think that people are able to express themselves freely in this country?
I think on the whole they are. I think on the whole they are. I know that there are some instances where people have felt that they've been they've come under pressure for trying to do that. And I think it's really important that those instances are properly understood so that they can be avoided in the future. But I do believe that that commitment to freedom of the media is strong amongst Ghana's population and in the government.
But there are some who would say that even you, for instance, you expressed yourself freely and you came under attack. There are those who also express themselves and the use of fake news laws are used on them amongst others. You don't think that's a cause for concern?
It is a cause for concern, and that's why I say I think that every time there are reports of this happening, they've got to be investigated properly. We've got to get to the bottom of it and really understand what's happening. And I applaud those journalists here in Ghana specifically, but more widely as well, who really take risks in order to keep on pushing to get the public the information that it needs, that it deserves.
Our dip in press freedom ranking, is it a cause for concern for you from where you sit?
I think it's a real shame for Ghana, yeah, I do. And that's why I think that government's commitment to media freedom, as I say in the conversations that I've had with those representatives, is important to hold on to that. And Ghana's journalists continuing to do the great job that they do in investigating and in putting the words out, I think is important and will help see Ghana go back up those ratings.
You foresee that we're going back up the ratings?
I hope it will happen, right? But it's not going to happen on its own. It will need concerted effort. So some decisions about taking a stance when we hear about those instances of things happening not as they should.
Our handling of corruption issues and its related matters as a country, what's your own assessment of the situation?
So I was surprised arriving in Ghana about the strength of feeling around corruption, and certainly the perceptions are that corruption is getting worse in Ghana. And that's a real worry, I think, for Ghana. So again, like media freedom, government really needs to understand where those concerns are coming from and really needs to get under the skin, investigate properly, hold people to account to that. It was great to see, for example, the Office for the Special Prosecutor recently, I think, seizing the profits, seizing the assets of a well-known company. That's a great example of those institutions being able to do their jobs.
You're talking about the La Bianca issue?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're happy about the handling so far? of that particular
So
issue?
I'm happy that the Office of the Special Prosecutor was able to seize those assets, and I think that for those institutions like the Office of the Special Prosecutor, like Yoko, like NACO, all of those organisations need to be independent. They need to be able to do their jobs without fear or favour, and government needs to support them in following those investigations through to hold people to account.
On that particular issue, you're concerned about the interagency row that this particular LaBianca issue has created?
So working across agencies is always difficult. I've done it myself in the UK. Bringing law enforcement agencies together is hard. It is hard, but it's got to happen. It's absolutely essential. I'm sure those agencies are working behind the scenes with government to improve that collaboration, because it's only by working together that we'll really crack these intractable problems.
Now moving on to other stories. Deputy Gender Minister Designate Francisca Oting-Mensah has rejected claims of engaging in conflict of interest as the Commission of Human Rights and Administrative Justice proceeds with investigations over allegations that the lawmaker used her influence as a board chairperson of the National Youth Authority to lead the board in approving the procurement of sanitizers from a company in which she is said to be a director and a shareholder. A resident of Nima in Accra, Ismail Mohammed, on January 21, 2021, petitioned the anti-graft institution to look into the conduct of the MP, insisting the NYA's 3 million cedis expenses on COVID-19 campaign in 2020 had element of impropriety. However, the MP is denying the claims in a response to an official query from Shraj on the matter. My colleague Kweku Asante joins me on Zoom with more on this. Kweku, first of all, what are the demands of this private citizen who made the complaint to Shraj?
So, Brace, according to this private citizen, about 700,000 Ghana cedis was used by the YEA to procure some sanitizers. And these sanitizers were procured from Adonko Company Limited, which is related to the Honorable Member of Parliament, who was also the board chairman at the time. They say that as director of the company, she used her influence to influence this selection of the Adonko Company, which is related to her father, as well as she being a director of that company.
Now, we understand there is a response from the Deputy Gender Minister Designate. What does she say about this?
So, according to explanations that have been filed on behalf of Madame Francisca Oting at Shraj, lawyers for the MP, Jogate, who is also a member of Parliament, says that the MP duly declared the interest he has in the company as director, and that information was known to the entity tender committee and the kind of people who took the decision to give the contract to the Adonko Company Limited, and that Francisca Oting-Mensah did not at any point in time unduly use her influence to aid the selection of Adonko Company, and that they were very duly qualified at the time they were selected.
Do the lawyers say anything about what the Shraj is doing?
Well, they say that the MP and the board chair is innocent and that the delay amounts to justice being denied. That we know that this information is all over. They say that they are ready to respond to whatever issues Shraj has, and that if at any point in time they are required, the MP is required to answer some questions, the lawyers are on standby to do that. They have nothing to hide. And whilst this drags on, it unduly affects the image of the Member of Parliament, who is expected to be vetted just next month for the position of Deputy Minister.
Kojo Asante with details there. Now, so what do anti-graft campaigners make of this situation, and what is the way out? We've been joined on the line by the lead convener for the Citizen Movement Against Corruption, Edem Senanu. Thanks so much for your time, sir. First of all, your thought on this development.
Well, thank you. I think it's good to see that citizens are much more concerned and alert about situations of conflict of interest and highlighting them. It's a good thing. It provides an opportunity to do much more education on the issues of conflict of interest and to make sure that public officers adhere to those rules where you are not to even put yourself in a position that is likely to become a potential conflict of interest situation. So it's good for Ghana, and it's good that people are now highlighting these situations more than ever before.
What does this say about people in public service and the public service in its entirety?
I think that many people are not very conversant with what conflict of interest means and what potential conflict of interest situations you could have. I mean, if I take the current scenario, declaring your position that you have interest in XYZ companies is a good start, especially when that is formal. And I think that every public officer who is assigned, appointed to either management or directorship level ought to do that as a first start. The next thing is, if you identify a situation where there's a potential conflict of interest, ideally, what you find in terms of standard is that you either say that then that company should not be part of the process. It may sound unfair, but if you don't want a citizen who just looking at the situation on its surface level to raise issues, you have one of two options. Either to then elect that company of which you are director that please do not participate in this tender, because since I'm also a director of this company, or for that matter, the chair of the board, it will seem like a position of conflict of interest, and so I'll dissuade you for going through this process. That's one way to approach it. Otherwise, you probably want to outsource the procurement process entirely to an independent, credible entity who would then go through it, record how they did it, the criteria that was used, said that if the company wins, it cannot be attributed to yourself or internal persons who may have been influenced by you. So, yes, those are, for me, the fundamentals.
All right. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us with your thoughts.
And thank you for having me.
Adam Senano is lead convener for the Citizen Movement Against Corruption. Now, the ruling New Patriotic Party has appointed a former executive director of the Accra Institute, Richard Anyagba, as its new director of communications. He takes over from former Denton MP, Boabeng Asamoah. The party also announced the number of deputy national officers after a meeting of its National Executive Council and Steering Committee. According to General Secretary Justin Kojo, who announced the appointment, the party is confident these officers will help the party break the 8 in 2024.
Today, 26th August 2022, in line with MPP Constitution, the party has appointed several personalities to several positions, i.e. deputy officers, national officers of the party, directors of the party, and deputy directors of the party. All these are geared towards the party preparing itself for the 2024 elections, and we are sure that the appointment that we have made today will come in to strengthen the party position and also party readiness for the battle that lies ahead in 2024.
My colleague Kweku Asante joins us on Zoom with a detailed list of new appointees of the party. Kweku, what are some of the key names on the list?
So, Brace, it's a complete overhaul from the list that existed under the John Boydu-led administration as well as the Freddie Blay administration. Almost everyone has been changed with the exception of the Director of Elections, which happens to be Mr. Freddie Kofiame, who is also going to direct that. But let me start from the top. We have the Deputy General Secretaries, Dr. Antoinette Sibuda and Haruna Mohammed are Deputy General Secretaries to deputize for JFK. The Deputy National Organizer, we have Isaac J. Hyde. We also have the Deputy National Organizers in terms of Joseph Kwayaja and Chris Lloyd-Akwe. If you come to the party headquarters, the number of people who are there, Director is William Yamoa, Director of Finance and Administration. And for the first time, the party has 7 men and women to lead its communication directorate, led by Mr. Richard Anyagba, as well as 6 deputies, Ernest Owusu-Bempah, Kamal Dean, Rabi Salifu, Jennifer Oforiapia, and Dr. Seidu Kokro. You also have the issues regarding Mr. Eric Intori, the director in charge of IT. And then, like I told you, the party has decided that in terms of the Directorate of Research and Elections, they will now maintain Evans Nimako for that position. Apart from him, every other person is a newbie.
Thank you very much, Kweku, for that details. You are still watching the Joy News Prime. Still to come, brewing tension in the Agbebloshi Yam market over the planned installation of a chief to oversee the market. We have details as the Executive Council warns the move will spark chaos and destroy the market. They want government to intervene.
We will not accept today. We will not accept tomorrow, because there's no chief here. We don't have a chief since 1981.
Welcome back from the break. Araba Kumsin joins us with this week's edition of Joy News Editorial.
Corruption is an animal that fights you fiercely when you fight it. Oh yes, it won't back down easily even though it is clearly in the wrong. But don't take my word for it. Take it from someone who has looked corruption in the face and vowed to fight it.
Corruption will fight you back. But when you fight corruption, you will be acknowledged.
Former Auditor Daniel Domelovo, Auditor General, fought corruption intensely, even at the risk of losing his job. We all know how that went eventually. But back to the issue of corruption. It's common knowledge that this is a serious canker in this country. In fact, in 2019, the Ghana Integrity Initiative quantified it. And you know what? The country loses close to $3 billion to corruption annually. $3 billion every year. Money that can go into the provision of critical social amenities, whether it's hospitals, schools, or roads, etc. And we are a developing country. We have a tall list of needs. And these needs require money, lots of it. And how do we finance these needs? Through the generation of revenue locally or support from our international donors. And that support is declining. But one of the ways we generate huge revenue in this country is through duties. These are taxes we collect at the ports, which will ostensibly go into the national kitty for national development. For, among others, the building of schools, roads, etc., hospitals, among others. But some people are not paying these taxes. They have found ways to circumvent the system. We have all heard reports about corruption at the ports. These allegations of corruption did not start today.
I'm really upset, and I think that I should let you know. Officers of customs, you are Ghanaian citizens. You have to help us to build a better Ghana. Every day we hear reports about malpractices. People collecting bribe with careless abandon. People who think that they are entitled to take bribes. How can we get rid of corruption?
So this is as far back as February 2011, when the late President John Evans Atta Mills, may he rest in peace, stormed the ports and unleashed his anger over the attitude of custom officers, some of who were caught on tape engaging in bribery and corruption to divert taxes owed to the state and enrich themselves. His strategy to fight corruption is what has become known as the Anas Principle. And oh boy, did it reveal what most of us, had suspected all along. The corruption being perpetrated by some customs officials at the ports was endemic. The Anas Principle had effectively unearthed the rot in the system there. It was a principle that even then candidate Akufo-Addo promised to employ.
Setting up highly motivated professional groups of young people who will work, if you like, as it were, undercover to unearth examples of corruption wherever they can find it, and thereby allow the authority to deal with the issue. Because not only do you unearth the corruption, but you actually deal with it in terms of sending people to court, prosecuting them. Hopefully the courts will cooperate and make sure that the offenders are found guilty.
Almost 10 years later, we are yet to see if that principle is actually being used and whether people are actually being prosecuted. Which brings me to the recent controversy involving the head of the Customs Division of the GRA, Colonel Retired Kojo Damwa, and the owner of the frozen foods company, La Bianca Company Limited. The Office of the Special Prosecutor had in its investigations accused the owner, who is a member of the Council of State, of influence peddling. The report said she used her influence as a member of the Council of State to secure a favorable reduction in benchmark values on the goods she imported. So essentially, she had avoided paying a little over 1 million cedis in import duties to the state, which has subsequently been recovered. So both she and the customs boss were fingered in this allegation of corruption. Of course, as Daniel Domelevo famously said, when you fight corruption, corruption will fight you back.
He was going to publish something that will discredit me, and he will do that. And I even sent people to go and tell him that he's a small boy. I'm older than him. I have lived a meaningful life. If he attempts to destroy me, it won't be easy for him.
Now, whether the special prosecutor is a small boy or an old man has nothing to do with the substantive issues being raised. But this whole episode raises questions about our commitment to the fight against corruption. We know the move to digitize the ports has had some successes. We applaud the Vice President for that. But if government really wants to demonstrate commitment to fighting this problem, especially at the ports, which has the potential to generate even more revenue to meet our developmental needs, especially at this time that we are confronted with the economic crisis, we need money and lots of it, then we need to face corruption squarely and beat it down. The question is, Mr. President, is your government ready to fight?
Now, there's brewing tension in the Agbebloshi yam market over plans by individuals outside the market to install a chief to oversee the activities in there. Contrary to the 40 years tradition where executives are elected from the market, the alleged one Bugri Nabu plans to install another as chief. The Executive Council fears this could degenerate into chaos if not checked. There's more in the following report.
A regular day in the Agbebloshi yam market, arguably the biggest yam market in the Greater Accra region. On a normal day, the market swarms with people selling, buying and cutting yams. In the last 40 years, it has been managed by elected executives with a 4-year mandate. But the current executives allege there are plans by some persons to install a chief by name Ayi Kofi Biwauti. They have described this as illegal. Most of the members in the trading community are from the northern part of the country. They fear this will introduce tribalism into the administration of the market. According to them, this could degenerate into what's happening in Tripoli, where rival groups are engaged in a chieftaincy conflict. Solomon Tamanya is spokesperson for the executives of the market.
We, the executives, disagree with the installment of the so-called Ni Ayi Kofi Obor Biwauti. What it means is that some people are smuggling somebody into the market to make him a chief. Since 41 years ago, 1981, up to now, we have never done such a thing. All we know is an executive system. If you look at the market, we have more than 20 tribes, almost the whole Ghana, doing business here. So if concumbers are saying we want to put a chief here, and other tribes too agree that, okay, we will also put chiefs, where will we be? Where will be where our resources? We don't have resources even to settle these little ones we have employed. Not to talk of, say, more than 20 chiefs in this small market.
They are asking government to intervene.
We will not accept today. We will not accept tomorrow, because there is no chief here. We don't have a chief since 1981.
Now, management of Kumasi-based Oripa FM will make a second appearance at Mensha Palace on Monday with an expectation to be cleared to resume broadcasting. The station is presently off air in compliance with a directive from Mensha Palace. The move is to show remorse for granting leader of the United Progressive Party, Akwesi Adai Odike, the platform to allegedly denigrate the traditional authority. Ms. Adai, who was a panel member on the radio station's morning show, had partly blamed traditional authority for the illegal mining menace. Nane Aljima was at the station to gauge the mood as the station goes off air.
Oyepa 100.7, a subsidiary of the Promise Broadcasting here in Kumasi this morning, has gone off air. The morning show is between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. and sports follows immediately. Both programs, as at midday, were not held. Now, the reason is that the Mensa Palace yesterday directed that Oyepa goes off air to show remorse for some words that were used by Akwesiade on their platform. What I have been gathering so far is that the TV platform is broadcasting, but the programs which they pick from radio, since the radio is off, will not be on air today. The TV is broadcasting today because it is a separate entity from the radio. Mr. Akwesiade's comments were made specifically on radio and it didn't reflect on TV. Therefore, TV is not affected by the present directive. Staff of both radio and TV, as at the time I went in there, had reported for work. Management of the radio station goes back to the Mensa Palace on Monday. It's unclear if the palace will clear Oyepa FM to start broadcasting again. Oyepa remains one of the very popular radio stations in the Ashanti region, having numerous listeners who are glued to Oyepa radio every day. Some of them are disappointed by the present situation. For Joy News, Nana Yaojima, Kumasi.